episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the podcast that brings you a wide variety of guests that can speak to a diverse set of topics. Hopefully, we can find something that you haven't thought about, or maybe even if you have something keeping you up at night, the material we provide and the experts that we bring on will be able to help you get past that. We just really want to see everybody be successful, and hopefully we're giving you some tools and ideas to do that here. So today we're excited to have Luke Fatooros. He is with Ideas into Business, which is smart business coaching. He co-founded his first business at the age of 23, started out in his father's shed together with his partner. He turned an idea and $800 into a $12 million retail company with 65 staff within 5 years. He unfortunately lost the business because he was making the same everyday mistakes most businesses make. His business was not structured correctly. He was exchanging time for money. He was forced on task to get through the day, not to set himself up for the future. He thereafter burned out and learned the single most important lesson of business: the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. He took 7 years to regain his confidence and try again. This time, however, he did things smarter. Based on his real-life lessons, he created a smart business system that does the work for you while adding value to your business. He applied this system to several new ideas, created a business valued at $3.5 million after just 2.5 years, and sold another business to a publicly listed company on the Australian stock market for $820,000 after 14 months. Luke is now a successful business coach who over the last 12 years has helped over 1,000 business owners implement his smart business system into their businesses, helping them create a valuable asset to set themselves up for life. Luke, thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us. Certainly do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Roy. It's fantastic to be here.
Yeah, it sounds like quite a roller coaster ride. Before we get into the meat of this discussion, tell us a little bit more about this journey. How you got? It sounded like you created a heck of a business, and then kind of went through stumbled a little bit, and then came back, figured it out that structure is really the key.
Yeah, so what you mentioned earlier, I guess, starting out at my father's shed, $800, two young kids taking on the world. We're going to get rich and do everything a person who wants to build a business, all the big desires. But we had no idea what the hell we were doing. We just hoped we went. And there was we struggled for 14 months, not knowing anything. It was just pure will, desire. We're just going to make this thing happen. So it was no brains, it was pure stupidity, just going forward. And eventually we worked out a few things. I learned how to do my first joint venture. I learned a little bit about marketing. And the business took off like a rocket, and we created a $12 million business in 5 years, and we won so many awards, and we thought we were so marvelous. Looking from the outside, anyone said, wow, these guys are incredible, they're so successful. But that success at a young age and happening the way it did, it actually set us up for failure. And it did. And we lost that whole business. And reflecting back, it took me 5 to 7 years to just get the confidence to, hey, let me try again, because obviously it was a life-changing disaster that happened. And what happened on that reflection was there was 3 life-changing lessons, which you touched on in the intro. And the first one was I really had to understand how money works. And that was stop trading time for money. I had to learn the difference between a limited earning structure and an unlimited earning structure. And working hard, you've got to have a good work ethic. That's different to just working hard and killing yourself and driving yourself into the ground, which ultimately what happened to Gary, my partner now. We worked so hard, we drove ourselves into the ground. because our business was just not structured correctly. It wasn't doing the work, which led me to the second most important lesson I learned on this reflection of failure, and that was the difference between being self-employed and a business owner. And so when Gary and I started, we thought, and this is how many business owners think. They think, well, I'm just going to make profits. The business is going to make profits, and that's how we're going to get rich and we're going to work hard. But that's not how you do it. That's just setting yourself up for burnout and exhaustion, which happened to us. What you want to be doing is you want to be creating a structure that actually creates a valuable asset. You want to create a business engine that ultimately does the work for you that you can step back from. So that was like a huge mind shift, like understanding the difference really between what is a self-employed person and a business owner. And so to give you like an example, my first business, I had 65 staff, it was going for 5 years, and it was a $12 million business each year. And so someone would say, well, that must be worth a lot of money. The truth was it had very little value, because if Gary and I stepped out or got sick or dropped dead, the business just couldn't work. So it has very little value, even though it's perceived, wow, amazing. The second business I created from an idea in a home office, and it was me with a notebook. I set up distribution in the East, distribution retailers around the world. It was just me, one person with a notebook at a home office working two days a week. Once that thing was set up, obviously there's a lot of groundwork setting up, but that was valued at $3.5 million after 3 years. That's the difference what I'm talking about. Now, I had to learn this on my journey, and most business owners don't know this exists.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful knowledge. And so the question is, well, okay, well, how do you do that? How do you go from an unlimited to a limited structure? How do you get an engine working for you? How do you step back so that your business actually is worth something that you can sell and you can have a life, not be eaten alive by your business, which is, most business owners are stressed, time poor, and the intent or the purpose of their business is just not what they set out for. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And which leads us to the chat with you today, the 7 steps, the sequential steps. And the sequencing is like the key, which I learned. Because you can't build a house with the roof first to put all the fancy chandeliers in if you don't have structure. So it's going to collapse.
Yeah.
And that's really how business is. People, I want to build a website. Well, let's get my Facebook page up. That's like your chandelier or your roof. Well, who are you selling to? What's your resonating message? And how are you going to scale this thing without killing yourself? So that leads us into today's discussion, the 7 steps. How did they come about? Yeah. They came about through my lessons, and the first one is optimizing your mindset. Now, when you speak to most people about success in business, they will say, well, it's sales and marketing strategies, growth strategies, negotiation, products and services, websites, digital marketing, all the cool stuff. And they're right. You do need all that. But there's a piece next to that called you. And if you're not straight upstairs in the head, or you're not sorted out in your brain, well, you're going to sabotage your business, no matter how good you are at sales or marketing, negotiation or whatever. And that's really what happened to me, my first business. Because every one of us has self-sabotaging traits.
Yeah.
No one's exempt. And, the people who think they don't have any, or this is all rubbish, and, which often you hear, and that was me, that's the voice of my younger man speaking. They're the ones who needed that the most. They need the help the most, but the ego says, no chance, not me.
Right.
I've got it all worked out. And, these self-sabotaging beliefs usually stem from our childhood. The way we were raised, the beliefs instilled in us. My biggest problem was my ego, the success. No one could tell me. Look what I've done. What have you done? Can't tell me. what I couldn't see was my business was a train racing towards a wall with 300 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
No chance, not anyone's going to tell me any difference. I had a crash,
Yeah.
burn and learn.
Yeah.
But things like people have issues with money. It's very common in business. The way they're raised, the teachers, the church, the parents, whatever. If they're told rich people are evil, or you have a low self-esteem or low value of money. If your service is, say, $150 that you charge for your service, but you have this thing with money where you don't believe people actually pay you for that because you're not worth it or whatever, you're going to start selling your service for $40,
Right.
$25. And so that's what you call self-sabotaging traits. It doesn't matter how much time, energy, and effort you put into your business strategies. If you don't optimize your mindset, your business actually doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
So that's why step one is, hey, you got to fix your brain up. You do need help.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many times we let the business start driving us instead of us driving the business. And I think, you're right, because when we trade that time for money, then all that means is we just have to work more to earn more. And then, of course, like you said, it leads us down that path to burnout.
Correct. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Because cash flow gets tight. Okay, I need to work harder, but you got no time.
Right.
And then you get exhausted and you just can never get out of that rut.
Right. Right.
That's a structure problem.
Yeah.
And so the second piece is optimizing your niche. So this is step two. So here's a very common mistake in business. People try to sell their products and services to the wrong customers. You can't sell meat to a vegetarian. Okay? It doesn't matter how fancy your sales pitch is, if the meat's been blessed by the Pope, how many times you practice your pitch, how many energy put into your presentations, you can change the price. It doesn't matter what you try and do. A vegetarian is just not going to buy your meat. They're not your real customers.
Right.
What you want to rather do is spend your time finding meat lovers and sell to them, not try and convince and spend energy trying to convert a vegetarian. That's just not optimizing your energy and time in sales. So the lesson there is, stop trying to waste your time trying to sell to the wrong people. And what I find is, dealing with lots of businesses over the years, most businesses are taught just to sell. The sales managers set budgets and targets and they slam the hell out of the sales teams. Get on the phone, you've got to make 100 calls today, blah, blah, blah. That's not really smart because, first of all, who wants to be a salesperson being told to go to hell every 5 phone calls, and maybe after 50 phone calls you get a break?
Right.
But what is that doing to the brand of your business, where you are a pack of hounds hounding customers, trying to convert customers, just pressure tactics, manipulation tactics, which is, if you know what I'm talking about, you get these sales phone calls out of it all day, hounding you. No one enjoys that. And it doesn't have a good reflection on the brand. So what should you be doing? This is where I think a lot of marketing companies get things wrong. There's a difference between your ideal customer and your real customer. So one of the first things you always hear is like, what is your ideal avatar? What is your ideal customer? What do they look like? The truth is, I've found, because I've built a lot of businesses, not all of them have worked, as you know, Roy. What I've found over the years, and the business I'm into, when you actually go out there and you start selling and doing things, your ideal customer who you thought was going to buy your stuff very rarely ends up being the person who actually hands you cash in hand. Yeah. And so what you want to do is you want to hone in on your niche. You want to optimize your niche. You want to find out over time who are these real customers, the ones that are actually giving you the cash.
Yeah.
And stop trying to chase ideal customers who probably, it's like the wrong marketing message, the wrong products you're trying to give these people. Find your real customers and service them.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, because, even marketing, if we don't really niche down to our buyers, we end up spending a lot of money casting this wide net over people, like you said. We're the meat salesman, and we're throwing a wide net over vegetarians as well. And even if we, maybe it's something that they may not know that it's not for them, then we can waste our sales team's time. We waste, a lot of time and energy talking and dealing with people that ultimately aren't our customers anyway.
True. And then what happens in that situation is the manipulation, the pressure tactics.
Yeah.
And some people are polite and they're given to the pressure and they buy the stuff. But that leads to resentment of that salesperson, resentment to that company's brand or name, because no one likes to be sold under pressure or manipulated into selling something. You want a customer to walk away saying, this is the right product. I love that salesperson. I love the company. I'm going to refer my friends to them.
Yeah, because sometimes it's even not as defined as just like, the vegetarian and the meat lover, but it can be maybe not even the right time. Maybe it's an age thing. Maybe it's a stage in life. But now I've made you upset. And so when it is your time to be my customer, it's like, hey, I remember those guys. I don't want anything to do with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bang on. There's like a short-term view. Let me put cash in the bank today. There's no long-term, it's transactional value today, not life value of the customer.
Right.
And so that leads us to step number 3, which is optimize your sales. Now, I've been building businesses for 25 years, and I've sat through dozens and dozens of just about every sales training under the sun, conferences, whatever. And they all tell you there's a sales cycle or sales model, and find the leads, connect, qualify, present, overcome objections, close a deal, nurture, and all these fuzzy terms. But I believe that these sales cycles are missing out on the most important pieces to be successful in sales. And I'm talking long-term view here. And I believe there's 2 secrets that every sales process needs to be successful in sales. And the first one is what I call becoming a master salesperson without all the tactics and pressure. And that is let your customers buy, don't sell.
Right.
And it's quite hard for people to imagine, but there's the process that you set your framing up properly and you just allow the customer to be in control of the equation.
Yeah.
They put them at ease, number one, because they can make the choice to back out or not. And generally they're more inclined to buy from you when they feel in control. So they buy. And the second thing I'll actually ask you a question is, what is that thing, that number one thing, Roy, that you are subconsciously scanning for when you're going to buy something from someone? You know what that is?
Well, for myself, usually it's trust.
Hang on.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
That is, not many people get that right. Yeah. That's exactly it. It's trust. When you're going to buy something from the salesperson, you haven't even looked at their product or service yet. They haven't even opened their mouth. You are scanning for that one thing. Do I trust this person?
Right.
And if you violate that, doesn't matter how good your sales pitch is, or how fancy your product is, or how many 5 stars it's got. They don't like you, don't trust you. Yep. They're going to go and find someone else who may even have inferior product or whatever. You may be a worse salesperson, but they got integrity, or they got their personal branding of trust.
Yep.
And so, for me, to optimize your sales, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You need to establish those 2 critical things.
Yeah, it's so important on the trust, because I'll be honest, I will pay a premium for somebody's product or service where I trust them and I know that they're going to be there. Sometimes they're one-off purchases, but usually it's usually going to lead to more purchases, and I want somebody that I trust that's going to be there to take care of me after the fact. And what I don't get a lot about these about the high pressure sales is there are people that you can bend into buying what you want. You can manipulate them, you can trick them, you can pressure them, You can do all that stuff, but what I found over the years is that tends to make a bad customer. That they don't get what they thought. That trust isn't there. There's no follow up, and then now you've got somebody who purchased that may be upset, and it's going to end up costing you more money and time to deal with that in the long run.
Absolutely. That's like taking a longer term view as
Yeah.
opposed to like let's get some cash in the till today.
Right.
And that's the I think most salespeople. I mean, I have worked in corporate environments, and most salespeople they just got managers on their back, and the managers have got the CEOs on their back and the board, and it's slam those targets, get those targets, sell, sell, sell. Now that takes care of the salesman's bonus and the salesperson's commission, but it doesn't take care of your customer.
Right. Right.
So that takes us then to optimize your marketing. This is the next step, because why is marketing in step 4? Well, the first few steps is who are my real customers? Who am I really selling to? Who's going to buy from me the quickest and easiest? And then when you work out when you're selling, what products will they buy from you the quickest and easiest? As opposed to what do you want to sell and who do you want to sell to? Two different scenarios. Once you work that out through the steps, well, that's when it's time to now market. Because, if you try and talk to everyone, connect with no one. And in my first business, we sold computers. We started out selling personalized software programs, which was a disaster. No one bought it. We thought it was, we were so fancy and it was going to change the world, but it was just a nightmare. We were not in a lucrative niche. This is a classic example I spoke earlier about. Our ideal customers were, businesses who are going to buy our software and improve their profits and efficiency and blah, blah, blah. No one bought our stuff. And our real customers actually ended up being families buying computers. Those two different worlds apart. That's where the money led us. And that's ultimately when the business started taking off. This is what I call where you follow where the cash is flowing.
Yeah.
We had stuck our heels in and had our chart on the wall of our ideal customers. Well, I'll still be there today with no money.
Yeah.
And so this is where trying to talk to everyone, connect to no one comes in. So when we started selling computers, customers will start asking us, look, guys are nice guys, but your software's just not interested. But however, do you sell computer hardware? This is what I call following the money, shifting from non-lucrative niches to niches. Customers were just asking us. We weren't even trying to sell something. They were asking us, can we buy it?
Yeah.
So we started selling computers. But if you take computers, that's a huge niche, right? You can have IT managers in there. You can have larger businesses, privately owned, who have bigger budgets. You can have small little companies, home operators with tiny budgets, families, bargain hunters, gamers. They're all buying computers. But you have to have every one of those will have a separate resonating message.
Right.
And that's where you have to find out, well, who wants to buy from you? And what do they really want to buy? And so in our business, when things went from struggle to the rocket taking off, is the process I'm sharing with you, the first few steps. We found that these people were buying, but who was buying from us the quickest and easiest? Who was our most lucrative niche? And that became families. Families, because this was back in the 90s in South Africa, so computers were not mainstream.
Right.
And so we tapped into this, and then we started honing our messaging, our offering towards families. And so targeting a message, a resonating message towards a family is very, very different to an IT manager of a corporation.
Yeah.
And so this is what I say, optimize your marketing, create that resonating message. Now, one of the natural things that comes up at this point is, well, surely if you are targeting lucrative niches where the money's flowing, you're going to have more competition. Yes, you are. And this is quite a hard concept for many business owners to grasp, I've found over the years. They say, well, there's no competition there. That's where I'm going to put my business. Smart businesses go to where the money's flowing. So if you find a niche or an opportunity where there's no competition, the chances are it's a dud. It's a non-lucrative niche. It's like trying to find gold in a lead mine.
Yeah.
You've got to go to where the money's flowing, and where the money's flowing, there's going to be competition.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. What you got to do in that situation is you just got to go through the steps I'm saying, because what you got to do in that situation, in that crowded niche, the lucrative niche where there's money, is you've got to stand out.
Yeah.
And the way you stand out is you've got to create your X factor. You can't create your X factor or your resonating message if you haven't did what we did was, who are you actually talking to? What do they really want to buy from you? And the third part of that is, well, what is your competition doing wrong? So that becomes, well, you then plug the gaps. That's how you create your X factor and your resonating message. That's how you optimize your marketing.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very powerful technique that I learned.
Yeah.
And that's only when you get to that point, can you start to scale your marketing. And this, I think, is probably one of the most important pieces on the call today. What most people do in business, they start off with a website. I mean, just about every client I have, first thing they do is like, I've got my website going. And I say, but what about step 1, step 2, and step 3? Like, who are you talking to? Who do they want to buy? What is your message? But they've spent $10,000 in Facebook ads, and they got a digital marketing agency, and they got an SEO company doing all this stuff. And I'm saying, well, what are they marketing? That's just, if you can't tell me on this call, what is your resonating message? Like, why are you standing up? First of all, what niche are you in?
Right.
And why are customers come to you, not competition? If you can't answer that, how are you spending all this money? What are you actually marketing? Just noise and confusion. You're hoping, like many do that. Well, if we market, our customers will work out why we are different. I can buy from us, which is ludicrous, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
And so that's why step 4 happens then, not before.
Yeah, and the other part of that, using computers as a good example, that when we think about that, what are we going to market? If we don't know our niche, what are we going to market? Because if we're marketing to all computer users, that's a lot of inventory. It's a lot of different configurations. It's a lot of screens. It's a lot of inventory, and so knowing that, we pick one out. Maybe it's the family, like you said. This typical setup is what works for most families versus the gamers or the business people. So it helps us to kind of on that back end as well to have the product that they're going to want. Not a gamer calls you out of the blue, and that's just not who you target. It's easy to say you're not in our customer base, but these people are.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is what I refer to as optimizing your business engine, so that you're not wasting time doing all these wrong things. The process that I'm explaining, the steps, is what I call the fastest route to cash. I just go with the cash is flowing. Yeah. Your objective in business is to be profitable, give yourself time and money and a lifestyle of your choice, not chasing dead ends and killing yourself all the wrong bits and pieces. And this is where the optimization strategies come in the steps.
Yeah.
Which then leads us to point 5. And this is now optimizing your efficiency. So you've got all the stuff going, you worked out what you're selling, who you're selling to, your marketing is kicked in, you've got an accurate message. Well, then you need to start optimizing your efficiencies, your workflow processes, because obviously this steps you out of the engine, otherwise you're forever in that engine. And again, this was a great lesson I learned. The real money is not in your products and services. It's in your ability to leverage your time, energy, and resource to selling your products and services. And one of the best ways to do this is through joint venturing, like tapping into others. They've already got everything out there. Just tap into, learn to joint venture with other businesses so that you don't have to reinvent the process. They've got all the infrastructure, they've got customers, they've got everything going on. And so one of the ways is through joint venturing. But to create joint ventures, you actually have to have time to set up a joint venture and do a proper job. And the more inefficient you are in the business, the less time you have.
Yeah.
The reason why is because you're so busy chasing your tail. You are doing all the work. not your business.
Right.
So there's 4 ways to become more efficient in your business. The first one is stop trading time for money. The second one is create an unlimited earning structure. Third one is systemize your business. And the fourth one, which I mentioned, is use joint ventures to grow your business independently of you. When you do this, this is like the foundation. This is the formula
Right.
that creates a business engine that does the work for you. Your business starts to grow independently of you. And this is how your business gets value in it. And this is how you create a valuable asset to set you up for life. And when you build a business this way, which is how I built my second business and all my subsequent businesses, you work far less hours, you're under way less stress. And of course, you can build an asset that you can cash out on, which I've done a few times. I mean, this, like I said, this was the biggest lesson I learned. You build an asset that you can sell. You don't just keep working like a nutcase every day to build profits.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, if you don't systemize, like you said, if you end up having to touch everything that goes out the front door, you become limited by there are 24 hours in every day. And so, setting that system up to where we can really make it happen without us having to touch every unit or be a part of every service, that's how we really grow exponentially. And, you brought up something else a little earlier about, what would the business be worth? But it's the same thing. If this business is dependent upon you touching everything, typically your business, if you want to go sell it, will be valued much less, because if you remove yourself from the business and this other person that's buying it, they're typically not wanting to buy a job. They're wanting to buy a business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to demonstrate that that they are buying something that runs, because if they have to put themselves and try and figure out everything you're doing, that's not very attractive for them.
Right, right.
And so you got to demonstrate this is like a machine that they just turn the key and put, indicate and put the lights on. That's what they're looking for.
Right, exactly.
And so the next piece is, okay, so you've got your flow processes, your systems. The next thing is you want to optimize your team. And what most people do is they do this the other way around. They get a team and then they try and systemize their business, because, I don't know, that's what they do. And I guess it's a natural part of business evolution. However, the trouble is, if you have staff with no systems, what are you doing? You're just creating more headaches for yourself, because the staff don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. Many of them try.
Yeah.
But there's grey areas. There's all sorts of things that drive the boss mad, drive the staff mad. The staff leave because they get frustrated. They don't think there's proper leadership, and that's because just inefficiencies. The business has not been optimized. It's not ready yet to actually take on staff. So the staff are there to help the boss, but what they actually do is drive the boss nuts. They drain more of their time.
You're right.
And put more stress on. The complete opposite of why you employed someone in the first place.
Yeah.
And so step 6 is optimize your team. And your chain is only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
Now, it's very common for business owners and managers to blame staff, shout and scream and carry on when things go wrong, but often screaming and shouting, carrying on doesn't really fix the situation.
Right.
And managing, motivating, getting staff to operate at like peak performance, that's a challenge. I think any business owner would realize that and acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And it's no good promising the world to your customers how good you are if your staff keep letting you down. And, one of the reasons they're letting you down as well, because you probably don't have systems in place for them to execute. And the busier you get, the more messy things become.
Yeah.
And so, this happens every day. And usually staff are the biggest overhead, and managing staff are the biggest stress points for business owners and managers. I think everyone agrees that's not used.
Yeah.
So how do you go about optimizing your staff? Well, I had 65 staff in my first business, and systems and that were very foreign territory for me, so you can understand the stress and chaos I went through. But through that, I did learn a lot of things. And there's actually 8 points, but I know the time is short. I'm going to give you three ways of how do you go about optimizing your team. The first one is ensure your staff understand how they contribute to the bigger picture. So when an employee is engaged and made to feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves, produces a sense of value and belonging. And this in turn makes them perform better and produce more favorable results compared to an employee who's just given a task and a manager looking over their shoulder and shouting and screaming at them. The second one is structure first, staff second. So you don't want to bend your business to fit a staff member's tantrums, tempers, demands, personality, or what they're good at or not good at, which most businesses do this.
Yeah.
They create a structure to fit their staff in. That's a recipe for disaster. What happens when a staff member leaves? Well, you suddenly have a huge crack in your business structure.
Yeah.
So every position should have a set of responsibilities to optimize the performance of that position.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you then go and find the right staff member to fill these positions that optimize your business. Yeah. Not any staff member, the right staff member.
Yeah.
And the third one is don't be held to ransom. So many business owners are held to ransom by staff members. They live in fear that the staff members will leave, and then what are they going to do? And so they pander to staff demands to the detriment of the business. But if you are clear on the positions that make your company work, that needs to function, and inside each of those positions, you're crystal clear on the responsibilities that make that position optimal, well, then you're quite comfortable to go out and find the right people to fit your profile, your tasks. You're not dependent on someone jumping and screaming and holding you ransom.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, there's actually 8, but we'll just do those 3 for the time. And then, so did you want to
I was just going to say it's very important because, and before you got into that, I was going to say, we need to step back to that last step, to the systems that we create, because a lot of businesses that I work with, it's the business or the management has failed the staff, not the staff failing the business. And I think that we get that wrong because we've done one of two things. We haven't hired the right person to put in that seat. And that's number one. And then number two is like, I think you said in your, in the first step of that is that we don't tell them how they are an integral part of this business, what they do. And it can be as simple as a receptionist, that you're the first person that people talk to and the first person that people see when they walk in. You are one of the most important people in this business, because if they come in and you're sour, then they're out the door. And so, but just working with people like that, like you get a bad phone call and it makes you upset, walk away, get somebody to cover your desk for 15 minutes, clear your head. Don't sit there and talk to that next customer with the hangover of being upset at the last customer. So anyway, I feel like that a lot of times that, we look at staff and say, oh, that person is they didn't do a good job. And I just think we set them up for failure a lot of times.
100% agree, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the final step of building your business engine is optimize your wealth. And as I mentioned earlier, when I first started out in business, I didn't even understand what this meant, this concept of building a business to create wealth. Like, it was just, what are you on about? Just didn't exist. And like I said, the mistake that Gary and I made when we first started out, which most businesses I work with are doing the same thing, they were just going full throttle to the wall, and they're trying to make as much profits as possible because they think this is the way that they're going to build a lifestyle of their choice. They're going to get financial freedom, whatever. But this is, like I said, the first step is like changing your mindset, optimizing your mindset. There's 2 ways you build a business. And the first mistake most business owners did, like I did in my first business, was working to make profits today, not creating wealth for your future.
Yeah.
So what tasks do you do every day in your business? Is it to get through the day and pay the bills? Or are you working to set yourselves up for the future?
Right.
And that's a concept. It's a mindset, and it's two different strategies of how you build your business. And it goes back to the point that I first started off. This is the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. And I said, business owners, they exchange time for money. It's got nothing to do with how fancy your turnover is or how many staff you got, or if you've been in business 30 years. It actually doesn't matter. It's the structure of your business and how you go about building your business every single day that is ultimately going to determine whether your business achieves what you set out in the first place.
Yeah.
We all set out to build business to give us a lifestyle of our choice. Freedom at some level, time freedom, money freedom, lifestyle, less stress, whatever. But the truth is, I think it's like 96% of businesses go about building the business the wrong way,
Yeah.
like I did. And you ultimately pay the price.
Yeah.
It's burnout, or your dreams disappear, and it just become inside this engine that just kills you.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing a lot of people don't think about is there are businesses that go out of business because they don't have business, but there's a lot of businesses that get hurt because they actually have too much success and they haven't walked through these optimization steps. They don't have structures, they don't have systems in place, and then they kind of just get drowned in their own success. And to me, that's the very worst thing to see, because even if we have a little side hustle that we're starting, if you want to grow it, you really have to think about this stuff from the very beginning, from day one, because you can get too far down the road, and then it's not that you can't do it, but it's much more difficult to stop a moving train to move it over to another set of tracks.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. That's good.
Yeah. Well,
So the final piece I have for you, Roy,
Yeah.
is just to reflect. There's 3 stages of building your business that I can bring to business owners' attention, or people building their businesses. And the first one is, you're building your business engine. The first thing is the doing. You can't get rid of the doing in the first stage, and that doing is you've got to prove your concept. So you can't scale something or become independent of it if it's not proven yet. You've got to prove a concept. It's got to work. It's got to get results for your customers, whatever that means. And it's got to be profitable. That's the first piece. Then what you do is you move to the managing stage. And that's, of course, putting your flow processes in, your systems, and then your staff, putting management, structure, KPIs, budgets, targets, etc. That's managing. And then the final stage is, of course, that engine is now running. You step back and your business is producing independent of you.
Yeah.
And that's your investment that you keep nurturing and looking after for your future.
Yeah. Yeah, so important, because that's the one reason that most of us want to step out here, is to give ourselves a better life, at some point in the future. So it actually takes care to set ourselves up to be able to do that, to achieve that goal. Yeah. All right, Luke, any other words of wisdom you want to leave us with before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank you. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully you found that useful.
Yeah. I mean, these are great 7 steps to optimization that, we all need to keep in mind. And then I think, you stress too that there's a certain order that we need to work these down in order to make it make sense for our business. So before we wrap up, a couple things. First question is, what is a tool or a habit, something that you use in your daily life, either professional or personal, that you feel like adds a lot of value?
One of the things I found when I was, again, the biggest lesson was my first business. I had little peace of mind. So sort of an oxymoron. desperately trying to work to give yourself freedom. And part of that freedom is peace of mind, free of worry and stress. And in my first business, and for a large portion of my life, because I'm a business owner, I was always stressed. But it's just never-ending stress. And one of the ways I found to manage that was I take time in the morning. I live near the beach here in Australia. I take time out in the morning, about 20 minutes each morning. I get up early and I just go down there and I just spend quiet time just reflecting on life and things that worry me, and try to just let those go. And this is, I guess, been my saving grace, because if I don't do that, what happens? All the stress builds up, and eventually you start freaking out. You get sick, you get run down, and your brain becomes like a washing machine. Yeah. It's not healthy. You don't make good decisions. You're not good to your family, your friends, and you have to learn to manage the stuff, because there's no one in business who's not stressed. I mean, anyone that tells you that's mad. So how do you manage the stuff? And I found it's a discipline. So whatever brings you joy, like walk with the dog in the morning or in the evening. I find morning is better because it sets you up for the day. But some people may want to diffuse at the end of the day. Maybe you can do both.
Yeah.
But you've got to have that precious time, that diffusion, or setting your priorities. That's what I found is, I guess, my sanity over the years as being a business owner, because it's never easy.
Yeah, it does wonders to start your day out right with the little, for us, we just take a little walk around the area where we live, and then hopefully in the evening, we can do that just to kind of clear our head and be done with the day, so we can move on to, having family time, and then also to restful sleep. So I think it's very important, different for everybody. So, I just always say, try to find your happy place, wherever that is. Sometimes it's just sitting and being with yourself, but that's kind of another part of that, is we need to be comfortable with ourselves too, so we can actually do that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right, Luke. Well, again, thank you so much. So tell everybody, what kind of businesses do you like to work with, how you can help them, where can they come to you to get more information and training on the 7 steps to optimization?
So I typically work with business owners who pretty much find themselves trapped in an engine. Like, how do they exchanging time for money? They need to learn how to leverage, and how do they unstrap themselves and give them, freedom, free of worries. They want more time. And how do they get their business working for them? How do they put the infrastructure in place that this thing becomes a valuable asset that they can cash out one day or give to their kids or whatever? So that is anyone who's in that frame of mind, who has, been struggling once that outcome. That's who I work with. I'm very structured. We put you through the 7 steps, and I've been doing this for over 12 years. Many businesses all around the world have got incredible results. You obviously have to do the work.
Right.
And so there's 2 ways. You can either just go to my website, ideasintobusiness.com, and contact me on the contact page. Or if you want some free training, or it's a full 90-minute masterclass of what we've talked today with the downloadable blueprint of the 7 steps, just go to ideasintobusiness.com/free training.
Okay.
And it's all free. There's no catches. And you can check it out and see if you like it.
Okay, great. And we'll include all that in the show notes as well as on the webpage, so people can reach out. Very important to build yourself some structure. Take the time to do these optimization steps. You can't go wrong, and you won't be sorry, at the end, when you do have some freedom, and when you've built a sustainable business that can last for years and years.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, and hopefully your audience found it useful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was very useful. Thank you so much, Luke. We appreciate it again for your time. That's going to do it for another episode of the Business of Business podcast. You can, of course, find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to, please reach out. I'd be glad to get it added so you can listen easier. Also, we're on all the major all the major social media networks. Usually hang out on Instagram a little bit more than other places, so reach out. We'd be glad to interact with you over there. Also, you can find a video of this interview up live on our YouTube channel when the episode goes live as well. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your business.